The Atlas Gauntlets. The mining colonies and the fissures can work faster and without fatigue.
Yeah, for mining?
Yeah, I want to use those for mining.
Yeah? My first thought is, wow,
I'm gonna bust your ass with this.
There have been a lot of really good animated shows that came out this year. What If, The Owl House Season 2, Star Wars Visions, and... yeah, that are just to name a few. But if you told me back in October that the best animated series to come out this year, possibly the best show in general this year, would be a freaking League of Legends spin-off, I would look you dead ass in the eye and ask, League of Legends is still a thing? Going into this show, I knew nothing about League and still don't really know much outside of the series. So take it from me when I tell you that this show is absolutely noob friendly and is 100% worth your time. Arcane is a masterpiece. It is a perfect, tragic story, and I wanted to share my thoughts on it. Like I said, I have absolutely no interest in playing League of Legends at all after countless warnings not to do so. I mean, if the game is already known for its rampant toxicity in a world where codfish and Twitter already exist, yeah.
No, thank you, please.
So I went into this show completely blind based off of the reactions of some of my favorite creators. And holy stinking super crap! This series knocked me on my ass with how amazing it is. I'm genuinely hard pressed to recall any other animated show that so perfectly balances so many different layers of storytelling other than Avatar. Yes, I'm comparing it to Avatar. It is a work of art and it is not messing around. Arcane has a 3-act structure, 3 episodes apiece, and while the entire series is absolutely brilliant, Act 1 is the show's peak, specifically episode 3, because that's when hits the fan. By the time you reach it, you're hooked, and the show just drags you along this incredibly tragic narrative about classism, corruption, power, family, and duality. But dragging suggests that it's a miserable experience. It's more like your eyes and ears are being subjected to the greatest freaking thing they have ever experienced. The art direction is on another plane of existence, man. This is the greatest 3D animation I think I've ever seen on the small screen, and I've watched a lot of animated shows. It takes the style that's a mix of 3D and 2D that Into the Spider-Verse and Mitchell vs. the Machines did, and infuses it with its own flair. The character designs are all fantastic, and the body and facial animations are phenomenal. This is the most visceral crying I think I've ever seen animated. From what I know, they didn't use any motion capture. This is all the labor of extremely dedicated and talented artists and animators who created such fluid and hyper-realistic movements, along with some completely insane and unrealistic ones, because the action scenes are freaking nuts! You can feel the weight, speed, and impact of everything. It feels tangible despite how crazy the characters are moving. The little touches like the gusts of wind and the streaks of light add a kind of anime feel to it. I mean, try and tell me that this doesn't fit. The 2D backgrounds are beautiful. They add such scope to the world and offer a stark contrast between the two sides of the city. And the soundtrack. Oh! It's amazing. It's all amazing. And Imagine Dragons went so hard on the intro theme. Why do people hate Imagine Dragons all of a sudden? Like, since when was that a thing? Like, Kate, I love you, but I really can't defend you here.
I mean, look on the bright side. You don't have to go see Imagine Dragons.
I love Imagine Dragons.
Like I said, Arcane is a tragedy, first and foremost, and the writers understood that the top priority was making you care and get attached to the characters. And good lord, am I attached to these people? The characters are all so brilliantly written. They each have their virtues and their flaws, and they make decisions that are both consistent with their characterizations and push the plot forward. For some reason, that's not as common as it should be. They feel like actual, genuine human beings, trying to make the best of their situations and solve their issues. And many subvert the archetypes they seem to fall into at first, and prove to be much more layered individuals. What makes Arcane so particularly ingenious as a tragedy is that it allows its characters to fail, not because of their faults, but because of their virtues, their best attributes. The saddest, most gut-wrenching moments in the series stem from either the purest of intentions, or those good intentions being overshadowed by those that aren't as good as the characters believe they are. But we'll get back to that. The main theme of the show is duality, and it's present in almost every aspect, which is really impressive. From the characters and their relationships to the living and breathing world. The shining city of progress, Piltover, is a beacon of freedom and advancement. But this shining metropolis is only possible because of the suffering of the Undercity, Zaun. They're two sides of the same coin, and one can't exist without the other. Zaun wouldn't be an orderless hellhole without Piltover's exploitation, and Piltover wouldn't be so wealthy if it wasn't exploiting Zaun. The two cities are connected by exploitation and suffering, as are the two halves of the cast who reside in them. You can really sympathize with them and truly understand their actions, even if you don't agree or even like them. Even the dickhead police chief, Marcus, who is utterly unlikable, but you understand why he still worked with Silco, even after his boss died because of him. He feels trapped, like he has no other choice. And technically, he is, because Silco is definitely not afraid to kill his daughter. You feel bad for him enough that when he dies, you actually feel a little sorry for the bastard. Okay, spoilers now. Jace and Victor's downfalls were so well executed and subverted a lot of the typical trappings of these kinds of narratives. They're both really likable characters at the beginning, a young scientist who has his dream taken from him, and another who wants to help him realize it. They both want to help the city with hex tech, and that never changes. They just go about it in very different, very bad ways. Jace's drive to ensure the safety of the city pushes him into militants and designing weapons, and Victor's terminal diagnosis drives him to obsession and going to dangerous extremes with his experiments. I really appreciate that Jace being the more popular one doesn't make Victor hate him, like the trope usually goes, but instead makes him question his own place in history and if his work will really matter in the end. I also love the scene where Jace classifies the whole Undercity as dangerous, and Victor reminds him, "Hey bro, I'm from the Undercity," and Jace is all like, well yeah, but you're different, you're not like them." I honestly don't feel prepared to discuss the themes of classism that this show presents just yet. I'm not that smart yet, I'm not. What I really like about Jace's character is that while he is influenced by several people and factors, like Medarda and Victor's diagnosis, that push him to make these extreme choices, he is the one who goes too far and acts on his arrogance. These are his choices. And ultimately, both of their choices end in death, and the two are left to deal with the fact that they've completely lost sight of their original dream, twisting it into something ugly.
In the pursuit of great, we fail to do good.
But as amazingly well written as these two are, the best characters are found in Zaun, in my opinion. I really liked Vander, despite him having the words "I'm gonna die" stamped on his forehead from this first introduction. He's a man who's fought so hard for his dream of equality and unity, but when he saw how many lives it would take, he decided it was more important to protect and make the best of what they have now, even if it means making a deal with those who oppress him. He loves his kids and his people and will do anything to protect them. It's a stark contrast to Silco, who will sacrifice everyone and everything, even his humanity, to take down the enemy. At least, for now. Vi is a fan favorite for good reason and is the closest thing to a protagonist, She's such a strong person who, despite going through utter hell in her life, is still compassionate, doesn't back down from a fight, and will protect her family no matter what. She's also a freaking badass. But her fearlessness is also her weakness. She's headstrong and rushes into situations with no real plan or goal. Her fight with Savika in the finale was just a way to blow off steam. It was a terrible idea, and she got really lucky winning that fight. But god damn, she tore her arm clean off! And I'm just so glad they didn't speedrun her relationship with Caitlyn. It makes it feel much more natural. But of course, Vi's most important relationship is with her little sister, Powder. Powder, or Jinx, is definitely my favorite character in this show, and trust me, that is saying a lot. She was just a little kid who wanted to help her family, but because of her youth and naivety, she messed up a lot. And being constantly compared to Vi, she tied her self-worth to how useful she could be. Vi really was her rock, and was the main one who supported her for who she was. But Powder's feeling of uselessness only gets worse when Vi heads out to rescue Vander and tells her to stay behind. It's like confirmation to her that she is worthless because she's not good enough to help them, that she's nothing more than a burden to her family, and it's heartbreaking. It makes you want to see her overcome this toxic mentality, but unfortunately, she never really gets to do that. And of course, this leads to the ultimate tragic climax of Powder's arc. Her insistence on helping her family, on refusing to stand on the sidelines and do her best to save them, got them all killed. The reason that this hurts on so many levels is that we were rooting for Powder's bombs to work, for her to prove herself as the hero to her family. It subverts your expectations in a truly horrific way. Kids dying is a big narrative shift in storytelling, and Arcane does it with frightening precision. Milo and Clagger die unexpectedly and brutally. And the scene when Powder tells Vi that she caused the explosion is gut-wrenching. The gorgeous animation, the phenomenal voice acting from Haley Steinfeld and Mia Sinclair Jenis, who was a kid when she recorded these lines, by the way. And Vi hitting Powder and calling her a Jinx is just... that is pain. Just pain. And you can't blame her for her reaction. She just watched her whole family blow up. The third episode is just a masterclass at breaking your heart. The portrayal of Jinx's very deep trauma is brilliant. She's been warped into a violent psychopath, but she still carries the guilt and trauma of killing everyone, and it leads to her being very unstable. Her already damaged mental state fractures more and more, caught in a constant storm of different emotions as she ends up torn between Vi and Silco, who she was and who she is. She is terrified of being abandoned again, which is why she sees Caitlyn as a threat and why she constantly tries to please Silco and prove herself to him, just like when she was little. And I really thought Silco was gonna be the typical manipulative villain, where he keeps Jinx close but is ready to end her the moment she stops being useful. But no. Despite being an absolute monster, Silco genuinely loves Jinx as his daughter and will do anything to protect her. He actually wants to help her get over her past and embrace who she is now, which is bad, by the way. It's oddly sweet? And thank goodness that's where they went with that, because in episode 4, when I saw her sit on his lap, my heart froze. But nah, Jinx is still stuck in that childlike headspace. Good God, somebody get this girl a therapist. And let's not kid ourselves, despite how fun the jokes are, Silco may love her, but he was a parent. He found a traumatized child and gave her a Gatling gun and 1,000,000 second chances. Yeah, Jinx is a genius, but she can barely hold a conversation without strapping a bomb to someone. Even so, Silco finally understands Vander, and why he was willing to give up the dream for his kids, as he now does the very same. And that final scene, man, it is a tour de force of emotions. Sad, terrifying and anxiety-inducing. Jinx comes to her own decision about her future and accepts who she is, the monster that Vi created. It didn't have to end this way, but it did. In fact, it almost felt like it had to, because Powder was just too far gone to fully be with Vi. She probably would have just ended up pretending like she used to be. There isn't enough Powder left inside her. She's just a Jinx now.
I thought maybe you could love me like you used to. Even though I'm different. But you changed too. So, here's to the new us.
I am the monster you created.
Oh yeah, Echo's here too, by the way. He's great, despite not really having all that much importance in the plot after episode 7. But what he does have is the best fight scene in the show! Holy the fight with him and Jinx on the bridge is gorgeous. It's like sex to my eyes. It's them as kids, but it's sad now because they're killing each other and Echo can't finish her off because Powder is still in there and she's sad too, and she tries to off both of them. She could have stuck the bomb on him too, but she wanted to die in that moment, and God, the music works so well. Oh Lord have mercy, I'm about to boy. There is a lot more that I want to talk about with this show that I just don't have the time for because editing this is gonna be hell. Professor Heimerdinger is a brilliant subversion of the wise mentor trope because he actually has his blind spots and flaws. Counselor Medarda, Caitlyn, and even more about Jinx and Vi. But I think I've said all I've needed to say. The more I think about Arcane, the more I love it. From the nuanced writing, the beyond gorgeous animation, the characters, the music, all of it is done with such love and effort that has 100% paid off. I almost forget that this is a video game adaptation, which makes it the best one ever made. Again, from League of Legends of all things. Arcane is a beautiful, exciting, and miserable experience. Season 2 cannot come soon enough. It has my highest recommendations. Please watch it if you haven't. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go listen to Annie for the 69th time. Good night, Tri-State area.